Today's canal is very abandoned, but we know its friend very well. Stay tuned to find out more. I'm on the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal, which is running behind me. To the side here we have a marina, just over on the other side of those boats there. And this leads on to a junction. Now this junction is for a canal we've never covered before, but you may be aware that I'm quite fond of the Lichfield Canal. Now the Lichfield Canal is the Lichfield and Hatherton Canal Restoration Trust. It's two canals that they want to restore. The main one at the moment being the Lichfield, but eventually they would like to move on and do some work on Hatherton. So the Hatherton Canal was built by Lord Hatherton. It was actually no Act of Parliament in place to build the canal when it was built, and it was built across with landowners' permission. The idea is to rebuild the Hatherton, and with the Lichfield they complement each other to produce a couple of quite big rings around sort of northern Birmingham, as well as a few smaller ones as well. And the junction is just ahead of us here, and this leads largely on the original route for the start, but then some quite interesting stuff starts to happen, which is what makes Hatherton a bit more of a project to do than the Lichfield. So coming away from the junction and the little arm there, you've got this bridge, and this bridge here leads over to the first lock on the Hatherton Canal, which is Calf Heath Bottom Lock. Now this then leads up into a marina, like a small mooring area, and then leads up to another lock which is just kind of by the sort of big tree in the middle there, and that lock is still there at the bottom gate, but the wall has been knocked out and it's been made into a dry dock. So boat maintenance goes on up there at the moment. That is then the end of the canal for this section. The line is still there, but it's on private land so we can't explore it. So a bit of a jump over now, and we are coming up towards the M6. So this road behind us, the canal would have crossed, roughly where we are now. So if you look across there, it would have gone in a straight line. Now the M6 is just up ahead. So there were plans in the early days to expand the M6 with extra lanes. There was even £3 million put aside as part of a project to build the canal under. Unfortunately, the motorways changed and went to a smart motorway, which meant they didn't have to widen it. So the hope is one day that will be widened, or some work will happen on the M6 and this project can go ahead underneath again. Otherwise, there's several options. One option would be to go through that existing road tunnel ahead of us, but that means the canal and the road sharing the same opening, which presents its own problems. There's also other ideas. So the canal for this road is going to be too high. So they either need to put a raised bridge in across here, or they need to lower the canal. So from lock 2, where that dry dock is, the plan would be to either drop that all the way down or drop that about halfway, come along in a deeper channel, and then come under this bridge so you can have a flat deck. That would actually put it lower for the motorway, and there are advances in tunnelling technology now, so there is a chance that could happen as well. It's not one mooted by the Trust, but I think that's definitely a possibility. So we're going to take a little walk now a bit further up after the M6 and see what else is happening. So we hop now over to Oak Lane Bridge, which is a lowered bridge just behind us. There's also a pipe bridge across the top there as well. I don't know how much of that's original. Quite often they left the bottom and then they took the arch out and put a deck in. So most of that exists to the motorway just there, and there's about 1.5 miles now of walkable canal before you start getting into built up areas, and you can already see how much of an issue the first part of this canal is going to be. It's not that the will isn't there from the Lichfield and Hatherton Canal Restoration Trust, it's just the Lichfield side is much easier in a way. There's still quite a few diversions and there's a lot of work to go on there, but the ball is rolling over there and it's progressing incredibly well, as you see from my update videos. They've also got a lot going on with developers, which has gifted a lot of land to them and made the restoration a little bit easier. But they would love to start on this end. Maybe one day, hopefully soon, they will. But if you are local to the Hatherton Canal and you want to get involved with the Lichfield. As soon as there's enough volunteers down here and there's some money available, they will come on down here and start work wherever they can. Just got to watch the towpath a little bit here. I'm not too sure where the canal starts because that looks like a drop. Yeah, that's very soggy in there, so that's just a thick reed bed on the side there, so there isn't much to walk on here. So the Hatherton Canal was originally built in several parts. So the first section, which we're walking along now, that took you to Churchbridge. This was also known as the Churchbridge branch, and this originally went to bring goods down. Like I said, it was built by Lord Hatherton, and they moved a lot of coal. So the second section, which was the extension, joined on to the Cannock Canal and the Cannock extension arm and created a freeway. Now there's a bunch of locks that went up there. They can't restore that, so the plan is going to be to divert around and come through a different route. Now that involves crossing the M6 toll, which we won't quite get to in this video, but that has been built in preparation, like the aqueduct over the Lichfield Canal. They built culverts underneath, 2 of them, to take a towpath and the actual canal. So that line is sort of protected and ready to go when it's needed. But the whole canal then is a diversion on Thrush Canal, which takes you down to the Lord Hay Arm. Then we've got the restored Sarandon Mill Bridge. Probably pronounced that wrong, so apologies. This was restored, I believe, by the WRG groups previously, and is a proper arched bridge, like these all would have been at one time. It's a very grey day today. The wind's picked up quite a lot since I started recording this video. You can kind of see the potential this canal has. It's probably a lot more rural at this stage. Actually, the bits that are less rural have completely gone. So the canal is then going to take a detour, so it'll be a bit different to the Lichfield, which is largely focused around the town, and it will create a really good shortcut across the top of Birmingham as well. Because at the moment you kind of got to go down and then come back up. The Cannock Arm, I don't believe there's any hope of that being restored. I've never heard of any movements to do that. So that line would have been lost anyway. But just down here, look, you've got loads of stuff. You've got your normal nature corridor, and you've got swans. I've seen lots of stuff flying around and up and down into it already. It's quite beautiful down here. Looks like a fishing lake over the side there as well. So cross bridges next. This is obviously lowered, so we'll need raising. I don't know how much, ½ metre to a metre, I'd imagine. Again, it was probably just flattened, and the original, you can see all this stonework here, that's definitely original. And I would say possibly the wall at the top is as well. This down here, you can see the difference in brickwork between the two. So I'd say original bridge all the way up to this point here, and then that was the arch there, which was destroyed for the flat bridge. Now these are all lanes, so I can't see it being a massive issue to actually raise these. Maybe not to humpback, but raise them and bring the road up and down on either side. Humpback bridges are a nightmare for traffic. Cars can take off, lorries get stuck, so the councils don't really want them. This has been repaired in the past 4 years, I know that. This whole wall was down at one point. Andy Tidy, who does Life at 2.3 miles per hour, it's called. He does a lot of stuff on the Lichfield and Hatherton. He's well known up here. Very worth watching if you want to have a look. You can see how easily restored some of this canal is going to be. Now I believe the CRT maintain the waterway still on this bit, and the Lichfield Trust maintain the towpath. That's my understanding of it anyway. Now, when the M6 idea and the 3 million was available, they thought it was happening. Sorry, lots of trees to duck under. To the point where planning permission was put in for a marina on this side. And even if the whole canal takes 20, 30, 40 years to do, this end could make a good mooring arm, basins and marinas up here as well. There's plenty of land up here for it. And as you come in, you can see quite a lot of old, I think it's clay pits up here that have been sort of filled in and now sort of lakes and reservoirs. So there's plenty of water up here to maintain it. Then just ahead of there is the site of what was Cat's Bridge. You can see now it's just culverted under. You've got 2 culverts just down through there. So this looks to be another lane, maybe a farm track. So again, not a major road, so I have to bridge. So again, maybe a raising of the road isn't too much out the realms of possibility here. And then again, into a nice straight, very clear section. And then we reach the first lock we can actually see. This is Lock 3 and is Meadows Lock. This was kind of the downfall of the canal. there was so much subsidence on this canal lock that it used to flood over the top, making it very, very difficult to navigate. The original canal, the 1841 canal, had 8 locks on in total. It then ran a tramway which went up to the Great Wyrley mines. They then built an extension in 1863 which took it up another 13 locks, which are numbered separately, and took it into the Cannock extension canal, which was built at the same time. The canal wasn't then abandoned until 1955, when they closed it all and largely built on that extension and the end of this canal. There's industrial units which you'll see in a minute, and various other things built along the top of it now, so it's never going to come back. This section here is largely just a ditch. It's more of a trickle up here. There's nothing stopping the water from going across that lock there, so it's just kind of on the back of the sill, I think. They could probably plank that off and fill this, but I don't think there's any real desire to at this stage. You can tell now we're kind of getting into pounds between locks. This is much wider than previously. So the next lock is buried under a little industrial estate. Then the one after that, lock 5, is on private land. And then we get into the diversion then from just below lock 6. It's kind of all built on. So that's where the canal is going to start to make a diversion south and go under the M6 toll. Now, like I said, they've put those culverts in already, which protects this route. It was another forward bit of thinking from the canal to do that while they could. Much like the aqueduct, if it hadn't happened, the canal was dead in the water. The other end, they've got the M6, and that presents its own problems, which are difficult to get over. And you kind of have to wait for things to happen for that to happen. So the M6 toll and the M6 here would have just killed this completely. Then we have Roman Way Bridge. This is one that's been restored. This is Bridge 8, and it's a lovely bridge actually. Nice tow path down the side and a bridge over the top here. I'm not too sure if this has any Roman significance. I'd imagine it has. The hotel's called the Roman Way Hotel as well. And then this leads into a bit that's a bit more difficult to walk down. So this is the end for this video. This is part of a series of videos covering the canal from the abandoned to the new route as much as I can, as well as trying to see what we can find of the Cannock extension as well. Now this I felt needed to be covered because I do so much on the Lichfield. I thought the other half of the Lichfield and Hatherton Canal Restoration Trust needed to be covered. So it's good to get down here and make a start, make an introduction to this fantastic project and the potential that it may have. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.